statement.
Thank you, and thanks for having this hearing. I think it's an important subject, and I spent about 32 years on it.
Sir, please turn on your microphone. Thank you.
Do I have to hit this?
Yes, sir.
Is
The
that
big
better?
red button.
Okay, good. Why are we here? Why are we dealing with a subject that occurred over 60 years ago? Well, the JFK case is one that simply will not go away, no matter how much the MSM tries to minimize it or make it disappear. 65% of the public does not buy the Warren Commission verdict of Oswald as the lone assassin. But even more startling, and this is very important, I think it speaks to the point that Mr. Garcia was talking about. Over 90% of the public believes that something monumental happened after the Kennedy assassination, that the United States went from a country that was bathed in triumph and optimism after World War II to one that was now covered with cynicism and skepticism. All right, so as you can see, me, Oliver, and Jeff are not alone in those feelings. All right. Now, what's the immediate reason why we're here today is, well, according to a congressional statute, we should not be here. And I'm sure you're aware of this because the JFK Records Collection Act said that in October of 2017, everything on the Kennedy case should be declassified, no matter what. And President Trump actually talked about this about a week and a half before it was supposed to be done. And he said he was looking forward to doing this. And by the way, if you know the statute, he was the only one who could stop it from happening. So on the day this was supposed to occur, he was visited by some higher-ups in the intel community. And under their, I believe, unwise advice, he reversed what he had said. He did declassify some documents, but not all. But before anybody jumps on me, I don't want to say that this is a partisan issue because President Biden was pretty much the same thing, all right? And some would say, like my friend Andrew Eiler here, that he might have been even worse on this subject. Now, during the last presidential campaign, candidate Trump was reminded of this reversal. It was not by the MSM, of course. It was by two independent broadcasters, Joe Rogan and Andrew Napolitano. And I think this was the impetus for him to sign the executive order, which he did. And to his credit, he added the much ignored King case and the RFK case. Now this committee has decided to back that executive order up, which I think is salutary. So hopefully we will now see the final documents on the JFK released over 60 years after his assassination, and hopefully the beginning of an excavation on the RFK and the MLK cases. It's a cliche, but it's true. Secrecy is the enemy of democracy. It's the enemy of the Republican form of government. And an misinformed or uninformed public cannot make good decisions. And a compliant press helps cushion the public from that fact. And this process leads to a loss of belief in both the government and the media. And you can examine every poll out there, okay, and they'll tell you that. When President Kennedy took office, 75% of the public believed in what the government was saying. By the 90s, it was down to 19%, all right? The biggest year drop was the year the Warren Commission was issued, all right? Now, from the beginning, the FBI and the CIA, as these two gentlemen have mentioned, have refused to divulge all the information they have had about the murder of President Kennedy. And I want a popular example, which I'm sure everybody here is familiar with. I'm sure you're all familiar because it actually made it into the MSM about the Schlesinger memo. This was the memo written by Arthur Schlesinger at JFK's request to do a top-down reorganization of the CIA because he believed that he was deceived and lied to about the Bay of Pigs invasion. All right? Now, I'm sure you also know that that was censored. About two of the most important pages were censored by the CIA, okay? These dealt with a very important subject, which is the control of the State Department by the Central Intelligence Agency. That many of these State Department employees overseas are not really State Department employees. They are really CIA guys undercover. And Schlesinger cited the Paris office, all right, which is very important because these guys are trying to overthrow de Gaulle at the time, and JFK gets on the phone with the ambassador and says, look, I don't know what these guys are doing half the time. Okay, so I don't even know if we're involved with this covertly or not. All right, and he was trying, and Schlesinger's memo was trying to get control of that. Now, my friend Andrew gave me, it's bad enough that the 2 pages were cut, but the CIA version of the Schlesinger memo, and you should all know this, the CIA version of the Schlesinger memo cut it by 60%, all right? And of the remaining pages, about 40% of those pages were totally redacted. And this is what I mean. How can you be an informed person when you don't even know this stuff? You know, when you have a first gatekeeper, in this case, the Central Intelligence Agency, keeping you from the wishes of what JFK and Arthur Schlesinger were trying to do, all right? All right. Now, any attorney, which I'm sure we have some here, and any investigator will tell you that you cannot conduct a full investigation unless you have the whole case file. Well, here we are in 2025, still looking for the end of that case file, you know, on the JFK case. Now, let me relate in closing 2 episodes from the last attempt of getting all these documents out there. This is which I'm sure you're familiar with, the ARB, the Assassination Records and Review Board, which my friend here said lasted from 1994 to 1998. When the board had its first meeting with the CIA, they flashed a memo on the wall, and they said, we're going to declassify this unless you have a humdinger of an excuse, all right? And the CIA liaison said, well, I don't have anything right now, but give me a couple of minutes and I'll think of something. This is what these guys have gotten away with. This is what they're used to. Now, when the FBI came in for their first meeting, the review board did the same thing. You know, unless you give us a great excuse, we're going to declassify this document. The CIA liaison came in the FBI liaison came in with a lawyer. The FBI liaison was so shocked, he turned to the lawyer and said, can they really do that? The lawyer said, yes, they can. All right? So this is the kind of arrogance that you're going to be dealing with. All right? So I really hope that people will learn from the past, learn from these experiences. You got a difficult road ahead of yourselves, and I congratulate you on trying to change things. The FBI and the CIA should not have the last word on JFK's murder. You should.
Thank you, sir. I'd like to now recognize Mr. Davison for an opening statement.